Back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Joining us right now, GOP political strategist, co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. Doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on today. We found out just this morning that Donald Trump will lose 2 more votes when it comes to New York, as 2 of his children did not register, switch their affiliation from unaffiliated to Republican. Ivanka and Eric Trump will not be voting for Donald Trump, and they feel very guilty about that, Matt.
It's kind of a delicious irony that the disorganization within the Trump campaign now extends even to his children.
Who have been campaigning for the guy.
Right, who've been campaigning, who are surrogates, who do media, who are, probably pretty aware of a lot of aspects of the campaign and the rules. Just shows, this is not a family that's been engaged in Republican politics and conservative ideas for very long at all. This is something that is he's a very recent convert, and it just again kind of makes you think, boy, are we being conned here by the whole family? Because if you're not registered as a Republican, I don't understand why you would be advocating for your dad to be the Republican nominee.
Yeah, it's very strange. Talk to us a little bit about Colorado. Donald Trump obviously blowing up on Twitter last night because of Colorado. Ted Cruz, sweeping all the delegates out of that state, and Trump and some other Republicans are upset because, as they see it, the votes of the people in Colorado did not count.
Yeah, and this is the problem with Donald Trump's ideology. He supports anything that's good for him, and he opposes anything that's bad for him, irrespective of the underlying, value of something or the ideology of something. Right? I mean, you either believe in states' rights or you don't. And if you believe in states' rights, the 10th Amendment, then it should be up to the states to decide how they conduct their own elections. Now, I will admit Colorado is a unique situation because they don't have a primary, it's an unusual situation where you actually didn't have voters vote first and then delegates elected. You just had delegates elected.
Right.
But, North Dakota had a convention. They didn't have a primary. Some of these, Pennsylvania coming up, had 3/4 of their delegates that are elected are unbound on the first ballot. Every state is different. I don't understand. I mean, he can complain. I don't know how that helps. Nobody's going to change their state laws between now and June 7th. And everyone knew the rules going in. And so, Paul Manafort, his new delegate strategy person, said on Meet the Press that they were not contesting Colorado. And that's true, actually. They were totally disorganized or unorganized in Colorado. So, if they're not contesting it, I don't understand why they're complaining about it.
Is this, and you mentioned it earlier, I think, the lack of really a campaign that is deep, a campaign that is, out there giving speeches on Twitter, on social media, on free media, that is, they're out there, but they don't really have a campaign apparatus below the surface level. And is that why they fear a contested convention?
I think that's part of it. Look, this is, as you said, this is a campaign that was built on the personality of the candidate. And to some extent, Obama's campaign years ago was similar. But Obama had a great field effort and a great ground game, and they were able to win the caucus states and smaller states to basically defeat Hillary for the nomination. They were much more strategic about it. Honestly, if Trump was running a smart campaign, he had real experienced operatives around him, given the $2 billion in free media he was given, he would have been unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. But he's not running that kind of campaign. He's running a campaign that is less sophisticated than a congressional campaign would be. And ultimately, that's what's going to cost him the nomination, I believe. He doesn't want to contest a convention because he knows he can't control the outcome. And so he's in a situation now where he has to get 1,237 before Cleveland, because if he doesn't, I think Cruz will be the nominee on the second, third, or fourth ballot, depending on how quickly the delegates move from Trump to Cruz. And so, either Trump doesn't understand how our convention works, and the fact that individual voters don't, all they do is they express their preference in their state, and then the delegates that are elected, the individual delegates that are elected, are bound by the state's laws to vote based on the state's laws at the convention. And in some states, you're bound for one ballot. In Florida, you're bound to the fourth ballot. Like I said, in Pennsylvania, 3/4 aren't even bound on the first ballot. You have to have a sophisticated campaign that understands these delegate rules, and that's what Cruz has done so well in winning additional delegates in Louisiana, and winning getting his entire slate elected in North Dakota, in winning Colorado. He had success in Iowa over the weekend. I mean, he's having success all over the country in a lot of these states, and so the delegate count is rapidly improving for Cruz. It's rapidly worsening for Trump. Trump's at a point now where he has to basically win 65% of the delegates that remain. And he hasn't really been able to do that. So far, he's won about 45% of the delegates. And so even if he wins 50%, which is higher than he's done in the past, he will only get to 1120 by June 7th. So my guess is he ends up probably somewhere between 1100 and 1150 by June 7th. And that is quite simply not going to be good enough, I don't think.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, we spent so much time on the Republicans. The Democrats, they've got their own odd delegate system, and if Republicans feel as though, and Trump supporters feel as though an election is being stolen or their votes don't count, you have to look at the Democrats. Bernie Sanders, who has won the last 7 states, but like what happened in Wyoming, Bernie Sanders wins Wyoming, but Hillary Clinton actually comes out with more delegates because of the super delegates that are out there. How is this process going to play out, you think, this year and maybe going into the future? Because I could see a whole lot of Democrats who are Bernie supporters really upset at the Democratic process there.
That's exactly right. 30% of the Democratic delegates are superdelegates. Only 4% on the Republican side are so-called superdelegates. And Karl Rove had the numbers last night or yesterday on Fox News Sunday of the superdelegates. I forget them off the top of my head, but it's something like 450 to 30 is the breakdown in superdelegates for Hillary to Bernie, and there's another 200 that haven't decided yet. I mean, she's getting 95% of the superdelegates. And if you take the superdelegates away, this is a much more competitive race. Now, it's true that Bernie is winning smaller states that have fewer delegates. To be the nominee in the Democratic side, you have to have like 2,000 or 2,400 delegates or something like that. Wyoming had 14 at stake, plus 3 or 4 superdelegates. So even if he'd won all of them, it would have been almost statistically insignificant. But you're right. Look, I mean, he's won 17 states now. He raised $40 million last month. And the problem is their entire system is proportional. There are no winner-take-all states on the Democratic side. And so if you get behind, it's very hard to catch up. Hillary learned that lesson the hard way 8 years ago, and Bernie's learning that lesson now. He cannot win states 55-45 like he won Wyoming. He needs to win them 65-35 or 70-30 to get the lion's share of the delegates, and he just hasn't been able to do that. And now it looks like he's probably not going to win New York. So we'll see where it goes from here. He's kind of hoping he can keep it close and then swing the superdelegates his way at the convention, either because she gets indicted or because he makes an electability argument. That's a pretty, I think, unlikely scenario, but that's something I think he's going to try to do. But you're right. Bernie's supporters ought to be really frustrated because the process on the Democratic side is much, much, much worse and much more unfair than it is on the Republican side.
What are the chances of the Democrats having a contested convention? I know the Sanders campaign has thrown that phrase around as something that they may look forward to.
I don't understand how it happens when you only have 2 candidates. I mean, I don't know how someone doesn't have a majority when there's only 2 people running.
Right.
Just mathematically. I think there's only going to be one ballot on the Democratic side. Now, again, could some superdelegates flip? Again, I think it would take just an incredible development, like an indictment or like a huge political scandal. Maybe there's a criminal referral, but not an indictment, and it's killing Hillary's numbers. It's just really hard to foresee that.
Matt Mackowiak, what can people find on mustreadtexas.com this morning?
Yeah, posting stories from all over this morning. The one that I'll point out is I've got a column in the Austin American Statesman this morning about the voter ID law in Texas and what the law requires, what it doesn't require, how it works, and you hear a lot about voting rights currently. This, I think, clears up a lot of misinformation that's out there. You can find that, all the news, all the opinion from around the state of Texas at mustreadtexas.com.
All right, Matt, read that this morning. It's a good piece, and encourage people to go to mustreadtexas.com, read that, and to follow you on Twitter. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad. Take care.
Have a good one. It's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak.